Palafalava, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, let's start. What's your overall view of what's happening in the world at the moment?
One of the things that we're kind of all looking at as even a country as far away as New Zealand is what's happening in terms of the conflict between the United States and Israel and Iran. And you would probably know from media reports that our leader, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins, has stood up strongly to say that we do not agree with what's happening, particularly in the way that we as a country have responded. Usually we have, international law that assists us with our peace and security. And even though we're so far away, we have those international rules and international law to assist in ensuring that there is continued peace and security right around the world. And as far as we can see, and we also have seen the reports through from the United States presented to the Pentagon that there was no kind of the UN Charter before you can actually attack a country like Iran. International law has, to our way of looking at things, been breached. And so it is actually quite concerning because now there's various other countries around the Middle East that have been attacked. And we also know that quite a few thousand, this is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there's about 3,000 or so New Zealanders who are in those countries that are affected and they can't get home. And these are also New Zealanders who live in the Middle East. And so our thoughts are with everyone who are affected, our people who are in the Middle East, as well as those countries that are being attacked.
Is Hipkins' view and opinion the same as Christopher Luxon and the Foreign Minister?
Not quite the same because we don't support the attack on Iran, and we have said that international law has been breached. I do want to be clear, though, that we don't support the Iranian regime. We know that over a number of decades there has been humanitarian breaches in the country. However, we do support international law. International law and the rules that each country, should follow is there for a reason for the security of all of our countries.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Jenny Salesa? What's the biggest concern at the moment for this country of what's happening at?
Well, what people are telling us. Their number one concern is the cost of living. And you would probably remember that this government, Christopher Luxon in particular, when he was campaigning in the last 2.5 years or so at the last election, one of the promises that the National-led government made was that they will fix the economy and that they will address the cost of living. But what we know 2.5 years later is the cost of living has gone up. You just need to go to the grocery shop and see the cost of groceries go up. The cost of petrol has gone up. The cost of a lot of our, the basic food that we buy, a lot of it has actually gone up over the last 2.5 years.
Okay, what will Labour do different if the Labour is controlling the government at the moment? What will you do different from what the government is doing at the moment?
I can tell you that when we were in government the last time, the unemployment rate was one of the lowest in our history. It went down to, I think, 3.4% under the Labour government. So one of the reasons why the cost of living really affects our Pacific people is when you look at, say, the child poverty rates, we have unfortunately one of the highest rates. When you look at the unemployment rate, 1 in 4, that's a quarter of our young people, are not in employment. When we look at the unemployment rate of Pacific people since this government came in over the last 2 years, over 13,000 Pacific people have lost their jobs. We also know that thousands of people have left New Zealand, moved over to Australia, and I know that there are a number of Pacific people who are part of that move over. Why? Because of the loss of jobs. And so when you ask, what is Labor going to do any different? Well, our name is Labor, right? We were established in this country, as in many other countries that have Labor Party, to look after the interests of labourers. Those are workers. And so one of the things that we are focused on, there are the four main areas that we're currently focused on, right? Jobs, health, homes, and addressing the cost of living issues. And so in terms of employment, we will focus on ensuring that there are more jobs available, and so that many more of our families are gainfully employed. The other thing that this government has done since they came in to government is the pay equity issue. So Labor, when it was in government, it put aside money to pay equity to ensure that women are paid in a similar way along the same lines as men. You know that a lot of our women, Pacific women, work in those areas, nursing, caring, teaching, where when the pay equity money was actually used to balance the budget, we're talking about $12.8 billion here, that actually affects so many of our women and therefore so many of our families, Pacific families, because their wages are not going up anytime soon.
Right. Okay, Jenny Salesa, in your customs portfolio, what concerns do you have about border security, trade, or travel experience under the government, under the current government?
There are a lot of concerns that we have around the border, and it was actually revealed just last week that there are now more gang members than there are police officers, right? So in terms of law and order, Customs actually works really closely with police. And as you know, one of the core responsibilities of Customs is to ensure that our borders and our security around the border is safe, including safe from international gangs bringing in illegal substances, including illegal drugs, through our borders, whether it's actually destined for New Zealand or whether it's coming through New Zealand to go to other countries. You would also know that various international gangs are using, unfortunately, countries in the Pacific, including Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, to bring through these illicit substances through the border. And so a huge concern from us. When you look at the wastewater data that we've had since last year, we know that methamphetamine from wastewater data has increased by close to 100%, 97% increase in wastewater. This is not people telling us that they're using more meth. This is actually from lab reports of usage of people in the wastewater. So we know that methamphetamine use in Aotearoa, New Zealand has increased under this government. So this is also a government that actually promised that they would hire 500 new police officers. That promise has not been adhered to because we don't have 500 more police officers. But it is also a government that promised that there will always be more police officers than there are gang members. That promise has also not been adhered to. They've broken that promise too.
Right. Okay. Let's have a look at your other portfolio as spokesperson for ethnic communities. What are your top priorities for strengthening support for migrant and Pacific communities, Jenny Salesa?
So ethnic communities in terms of the demographics in this country, right? So when we look at the overall population, there are 1.1 million ethnic people in this country. There are three major population groups within that. So the largest are Indians at just over 400,000 now, according to the Stats New Zealand projections to 2026 based on Census 2023. The second largest are Chinese. There are also close to 300,000 now. And then the third largest population are Filipinos at about 114,000. So these are huge population groups. And so when we look at what is it that New Zealand is doing, so one of the things that we are focused on in terms of our party is to ensure that there is social cohesion. When we look at what's happening overseas, there are countries that actually utilise various tactics, whether it's via social media or via various policies, to ensure that there is that social cohesion is actually not what is achieved. That some migrants are actually blamed for taking jobs or for various initiatives that are happening within the country, right? So what we're trying to do in New Zealand is to ensure, not just for ethnic communities, but Pacific is in this too, as well as our tangata whenua Māori, that we are a socially cohesive country overall, that we have, people that like to live with each other, that we all follow the same rules.
Right. Okay, last question, Jenny Salesa. What are the biggest challenges facing Panmure and Ōtāhuhu right now, and what solutions are you pushing for?
Well, the biggest challenge in Panmure-Ōtāhuhu is the same as the challenges that the whole country is facing, which is, number one is cost of living. Number two, for a lot of our people, are health issues. As you know, Middlemore Hospital is actually within my electorate, and so you would also know that there are a lot of Māori, Pacific, and our ethnic community that actually go to Middlemore Hospital. Some of the issues that my constituents are telling me now is the fact that they go through to the ER, they wait a long time to be served. A lot of our people are also saying that they cannot really actually afford to go and see their GP. This is, of course, one of the issues that Labor has already come out with a policy that we will provide 3 free GP visits. Why? Because we believe that if you were to make primary healthcare affordable so that our people visit their doctors initially, that hospitals like Middlemore Hospital shouldn't actually have this huge flow of people that are waiting for hours to be served at the ER when their health issues can be addressed at the GP level.
Excellent, Jenny Salesa. Okay, well, general election is less than 8 months from today. You well prepared for the election?
I would always like to be prepared, but I can tell you that one of the things that I'm doing currently is I'm recruiting volunteers. You may also know that there is currently a by-election that's happening in my electorate because Papatoetoe is one of the areas I cover. And so that local board election for choosing who the 4 members are to be represented at the local board area is one of the things that we are trying to ensure that some of our people actually go through and are successful at the local board area. This is something that members of parliament like myself are not usually that involved in because it's at a different level to the general campaign that we will run later on in the year. But we are actually lending a helping hand. So I'm recruiting volunteers right now. We're about to begin our door knocking for Papatoetoe. So if any of your listeners live in Papatoetoe, please remember to send in your mail ballot votes to the Electoral Commission.
Jenny Salesa, whawhetai tere lava, Malu o Peter, and thank you so much for your time this morning. Manuele aso.
Whawhetai lava, Manuele aso.
Le whianga tamata whepule, Jenny Salesa, Malu tarananga, rene fo i tae hau fau, le tau tua Māori British Samoa Swarima, Eva Tolu Amo.